girlfriend's. I've got to take my daughter to the hospital later, and she said, look, if you drop me at the station, you can have the car. And I thought, okay, that'd be really good, but it's the worst time to leave. And
Oh,
I just
no
got caught in
drama.
everything.
I'm not
Um,
letting anybody down. It's all good. The chances of me having a trade are very, very slim, I would imagine.
right, we're live on YouTube. Sorry everyone. We are just discussing why the show didn't quite start on time. So Jeff has got the euro pound up. You were saying that you probably won't get a trade on, which I understand, and actually I kind of concur with.
Yeah, look, it's flat city out there, mate. There's nothing happening, and I think we're on hold until probably tomorrow. Certainly with the euro and the pound
Yeah,
crosses.
yeah.
I was in a short this thing, euro pound, based on the daily bar yesterday. Yes, no, the day before actually. I traded this one, didn't I? And since I got taken into this, there's just been absolutely no price action at all. So I've opted to just get out. I made 4 cents.
Oh, well done.
4
Still a
cents on the
profit.
swap. So yeah, look, there's nothing to do here for mine. I'm still of the opinion this will go, but I don't know that it's going to be anytime soon.
I
Because if you
agree.
look at the price action, it's just flat city, and
Yeah.
I don't want to be involved in that, except if we get up to a resistance level where I can trade short, or we get to a support level where I can trade long. But whilst ever we're in the middle here, it's a no-go zone for me. So I'm more than happy to be on the sidelines until that changes, to be fair. And it's pretty much the same across the board. Mate, have you got anything on the FTSE?
Well, this is what I was going to say about the FTSE, but pretty much the same thing. Yesterday's trade was really successful. It was a really positive trade.
I'm going to say you should have done well.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's been a really good start to this week, isn't it? Just
Yeah,
a couple
down
of
and
really
up.
good trades, and
Perfect.
um, let me see what I've got then. So if I show you my screen, um, I came out in the end, and actually I came out probably a little bit early, but because what I was looking at was coming out yesterday at the monthly pivot, but as price started to take off again, I was thinking, you know what, I might hold until the end of the session.
Hard to
Um,
close a candle that looks like that, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I thought that looks good enough. Let's just give it a little bit of time, and see what happens. So as it moved back up again, I closed on yesterday's the final hour of the FTSE being open.
Yep.
And then we drifted around a little bit, and then we did take off. Now, interestingly, I did have this area up here as a potential longer term target, but I think because of the time that it happened, and because ultimately the price that I got was it was so good coming in down here. It was that double bottom, wasn't it, that I traded?
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally as it touched down here, there was very, very little that I, any extra that I could have got out of it. It came down a little bit more, but I got such a good price that I was really pleased with whatever happened. So it's kind of splitting hairs a little bit on this last little bit, even though that is 25 pips, which is still quite a nice little profit. It doesn't look that far, but it's still a nice little profit from this point to this point. So I still would have closed up now, and just like you, I would be on my hands because my the area is a sell zone. To kind of start moving to the downside again. But actually, I'm kind of bullish because what I gather from Draghi, and if I'm on, yeah, I mean, I probably would have closed up, but there would have been half of me that would just thought, yeah, let's just stay in, let's just maybe get these stops nice and tight and stay in and see if it can take off. I do think it's unlikely to take off, but when we kind of look at the other charts, the other time frames, i.e., the daily, they're looking really positive. It's almost looking like maybe even a bull flag up here. Decent buy yesterday, could well take off today, and I think the next point of call is probably kind of like knocking on this door here. So there is actually another 100, almost 100 pips out of this that could actually be seen. There's also, when we look at the 4-hour chart, I think maybe even a potential case to be made for an inverted head and shoulders. It's a bit sloppy, but you could say that this is a right shoulder, and this is the head down here, and this is the left shoulder, this is the head, and this is the right shoulder, which puts the right shoulder a lot higher, which is pretty bullish. So, I was looking at that as a potential pattern to try and ascertain where the price might eventually settle at. So there's the
It's also a definite break of the previous range and a retest of the previous range, and it's taken off again. So
yes,
I would have thought that's bullish. Yeah.
It looks pretty bullish, doesn't it? But like the thing is, it's the and actually that drags us quite a way up. The thing with it is that it does come down to tomorrow's announcement, and the question that I always have with this is, will the market move before the announcement happens? And if it's going to move, it's much more likely to buy than it is to sell. So it would have been fine to stay in. It would have been okay to stay in and see what happens. But maybe there's an opportunity. I'm going to try and get back in again tomorrow. But if I don't, then I don't, and I'll just have to accept that it would have given me maybe another 100 pips. But this is the key: the monetary policy statement and the main refinancing and the ECB's press conference at 1:30 tomorrow. So that's what Jeff and I are talking about. Is the market likely to move much before then? And it certainly could, but it does make it a little bit more of a tenuous trade. Where do you take profit? What do you do with your stops? How long are you going to actually hold on for? So we've taken the choice that we're going to close trades and wait for that announcement and then get back in the market after that.
Yeah, that's certainly my take on it. Because I trade euro and pound so heavily, and the Aussie, of course. I think it's just a nonsense flat city market right now, and just to get messed up in the middle of it doesn't make any sense to me. And that's precisely what it's like going into the surf when the surf is really, rough and tumble. You just get pounded by it, and there's no real reward available to you. Tomorrow evening sounds like a good idea, I think.
Yeah,
I've got to be honest. There are a couple of exceptions though, and I'll go through them in a minute. But
go for it, mate. I'm pretty much done with the FTSE. As I say, I don't think I'll be doing too much. I do still quite like the movement to the upside, and we're looking at this RSI. The RSI is now turning positive. We were talking about this yesterday with Lewis. How the RSI was in a downtrend effectively, but now the RSI is certainly looking a lot more positive. Maybe a little bit overbought up here as well, which is the other reason that I wouldn't be so keen on trading it long. And the only reason I'm not going short, so I could use the same philosophy down here, is that ultimately the market is in an uptrend. So I'm not really interested in counter trend trading before a news announcement, because I think it's much more likely to pop down and get swallowed up. Which in saying that is something that I would do. I'd be happy if it pops down here. That's what I really want from here. What I'd quite like to do is take a little punt to the upside. It seems, from what I gather, from what I've read, that Draghi is likely to come out and say that there's going to be some stimulus, which is going to be good for stocks. It's going to be negative for the euro and good for stock. So that they're the two directions that I'd be looking at. But popping down here sometime, maybe seeing some price action, seeing what happens there. I wouldn't mind seeing that and seeing if we can get through. And if we can't get through, maybe by the end of the session, then I'll probably close it up again. But I wouldn't mind trying to take a trade down here, and entering again where I exited before. But I would like to see this unfold a little bit over the course of this session and the US session. And I think the other fairly interesting thing for me yesterday was that when I was looking at the US session, so this is obviously today, as you can see the pivot. Yesterday's pivot shows us yesterday's price action, and yesterday's price action was fairly negative. You know, and just like you were saying about things being really flat, this again is you know, the futures on the S&P are fairly flat. They're not really kind of taking off. Looks like they may well have been at a high, or they might have seen this high already. Could
Well,
be
look at
when
the daily pivot over 3 days. It hasn't moved.
no, you're
Little
absolutely
bump,
right.
that's it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So yeah, the price action
That
was
tells you
fairly.
everything you need to know, really.
You're absolutely right, mate. And actually, it dipped down yesterday, so that maybe could be a little signal that we could be starting to weaken up here. RSI was pretty embedded up here, but overbought. Now it's starting to come off, possibly even showing to a degree some elements of divergence. So price action does seem to be a little bit weaker there as well. So there are a few other key aspects which suggest that we could be getting a little bit of weakness up here. Certainly do have some divergence in the Dow Jones. Dow Jones's price action slightly higher than it has been since the start of the week, but the RSI is starting to weaken, so the momentum is weakening up here as well, and the Nasdaq is also showing some downward movement from yesterday. So maybe just a pause in proceedings, but we'd certainly look for some of these indicators to unwind. Looks like we have a trend line there, which needs to be on watch. Can Draghi be the catalyst for a further move up? Quite possibly. Or are we waiting for Jerome Powell? That's the other question that we're going to have. So I think, considering what we've got from the FTSE for the last 2 days, you know, we had really good Monday, really good Tuesday. I think it's acceptable just to kind of say, you know what, we don't actually have to make any more money this week. So let's let this
No,
unfold.
you don't. You've done well. Great start to the week.
Yeah, but I'm pleased with it, mate. But pleased with it because I've taken the pressure right off my decision making more than anything else. So even though I may frustrate myself by not being able to get into a trade, which you know would have gone the way that I suspect, I can keep a fairly clear head and don't have to bounce into it.
Mate, when you look at those candles, then that's a 4-hour chart you're looking at. Every single one of them is in the same spot.
Yeah, absolutely right.
Don't need to do too much.
No, well,
just wait.
yeah, this is the euro
Yes.
dollar, and interestingly, I was talking to somebody on Monday about this, and I was saying any time that the euro comes up and sees the monthly pivot, I'm a seller, and every time it comes down to the weekly pivot, I'm a buyer until Thursday. And it hasn't even gone near those 2 price points. So there's been absolutely no trading opportunities from my perspective. Even on the euro on an intraday basis, you know. So why would it change today is the big question. That's you know, the range is tight, isn't it, on the euro?
Absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
this is what
Looking
we got.
good for my breakout trade tomorrow, though. I must admit.
I agree,
and
this.
I'm happy.
I suppose that's the thing, isn't it? If we're sort of like getting prepared for what can happen from here, then a breakout. Would this be now your new range? I will pass you the screen actually, just to kind of discuss this. So
At the moment, it is, yeah.
Yeah.
Right
Okay.
now, it is, yeah.
So if it doesn't move from here from now until 1:30 UK tomorrow before the press conference, you are happy to maybe bounce in above or beyond this level.
Yeah, probably reduce my risk on that one for 2 reasons. And the 2 levels you just spoke about are going to be support and resistance. So whether the announcement's strong enough to get them through there is going to be an issue. The other way to look at it is, okay, we can put our entry above the resistance and below the support and widen that range to a degree. I'll take a good look at it tomorrow and have a good bit of analysis on that.
Great.
So exactly where we put our entry and stops.
Well, let me pass you back the screen, mate, and
Roger D.
If you've got anything, that is, I don't know.
Yeah, look, there are a couple of opportunities. We will have to be patient, but there are a couple. Just for those joining late, and I see there are a couple of people who've come into the room. Here's the thing. There's an absolute entry here, exactly where price is right now, for me to go short the euro. And my bias is short the euro. But there's 2 days of trading. And as Ash has just pointed out, the range is there and there. Why would I think right now is the time that that range is going to break? What makes me think that? Technical setup? Yeah, maybe. But is it strong enough? And is there reason for price to move enough? Is there a driver that's going to get this down and beyond these lows, which is where I'd want to go, right? My entry would be here short. My stop would be here, which gives me entry right there, stop right there, about, let's say, 16 pips of risk. My reward is 5 pips before I hit support. That doesn't make sense to me at all. And you've got to get down to beyond daily support 1 before you even get 1-to-1. So there's support here, there's support here, there's support here, and the reward just isn't good enough. So the risk is too high, in my humble opinion, given the range that we're sitting in, to take a trade at all on the smaller timeframes at the moment. But it's even worse on the bigger timeframes. And those of you who were in the show yesterday would probably be aware that I was short euro pound. I'll just repeat this for those coming in late. Short euro pound here, trading a break and retest of, I guess, an early neckline, if you want to call it that, of the potential reversal here. And I just sat there for hours and hours and hours waiting for this to do something, and it hasn't. And now it's 1, 2, 3 days later, and we're still at the entry point. So I closed this at entry, and I don't want to be any part of it until it shows me something different. But as Ash pointed out yesterday, there's a secondary or probably even more pertinent neckline here, which is this line. And I'd be happy to wait until that breaks, to be fair, and then get another retest. Exactly the same scenario as we saw before. It may not happen, of course, but if it does, I think that's where I'd like to get back in, rather than sitting in this for ages, and really hoping. It gets to the point where you're hoping. And when you're in that situation, I've got very bad news for you. When I'm in the situation where I'm hoping, I'm out straight away. Don't want to know about it. Yeah. Because unless my my bias and my analysis kick into gear well before these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bars that I've sat through whilst being in this trade, no, just not happening. So I need to see something to get me interested again on euro pound. Look, is it technically still there? Absolutely, technically still there, because what we've seen is, well, a massive spinning top, if you like, but then a rejection bar of the broken trend line, or trade line, as I call them, because it's not a trend line. So really nothing's changed there. This candle here has done a lot of work to get back down to this level, which is pretty much the entry level, and it's daily pivot. It's all about the daily pivot. Everyone wants to be on the daily pivot. So my counsel would therefore be, use that to your advantage and go for currency pairs that are indeed ranging. So pick out a range and trade it off the resistance to the support, vice versa. There are oodles of them at the moment. Euro pound is not one of them. Pound Kiwi is one of them, where I'll go to the smaller time frames. Unfortunately, we're in the middle of nowhere. I mean, this is no man's land at the moment. But my point is, if we got down to the bottom again, then we can look to trade back to the top, etc., etc. Aussie CAD is another. We're already at the top, so I'm waiting for an entry here. What would I need to see? Well, look how many times we've tried to break that level, which is around about the 90-40 level, something like that. What I really need to see is a lower high. But this is such a mess in itself. You can probably drill down into that. It's a 4-hour chart I'm looking at. If you were to drill down into that area, you'd probably find there's another range in here, but it's very, very messy, given that bar there, which was on what news today? Don't know. That's a news candle. I've got no doubt about that. Wednesday, Aussie Westpac consumer sentiment negative 1.7. That's hardly going to light the Aussie up, but it did. Well, maybe it didn't. Maybe it was something else that I'm not seeing here, but most definitely there is a huge candle to now contend with. How do we deal with that? Well, what I'd really like to see is price hit support again, some sort of support. Maybe it's this level here. If we can hit support here, bounce off it, then find resistance, which pretty much where we are would do, or in the daily pivot would do. Then I've got a lower high based on a topping of this range. And when I see that, then I've got a chance to trade it to the bottom. That's Aussie CAD. Euro CAD, not dissimilar in terms of we do have a range, but if you want to trade 5-minute charts, you probably find that there's a pretty good one in there as well. I don't trade 5-minute charts, I've got to say, but the same applies. You know, we've got a clear range in here, a box range. And if we were to bounce off the bottom here, put in a higher low, why wouldn't you trade it to the top of that range? You know, the range is pretty clear. It starts, let's say it starts here, and, you know, it's probably in there somewhere. You might even want to tighten that up a little bit, which gives you even a better idea, because you come back inside here, you're looking at a false break of that area, put a higher low in, away you go. You know, the principle is exactly the same. As I said, I don't trade 5-minute charts, but there you go. And there's another one, Aussie Kiwi, also ranging. Again, if you want to drill it down deeper, you've got another range forming inside here. And I think it's very much worth looking at when the market is in this flat zone or sideways zone, to look at these bounces off support and resistance. And that's kind of where I'll be at if I stay in front of the charts. And, you know, to be fair, I haven't got another webinar today, which is unusual. But what that means is I don't have to trade. I don't have to be in front of the charts. And I've got a funny feeling that I may not be. But if I see these hit the top of, I'll keep the charts open. If I see these hit the top or the bottom, then I'll absolutely look to trade them. There's another one, you know, Kiwi dollar. Again, in the middle of nowhere right now. But if we were to hit the bottom or even go through it, then come back into it, look for a higher low, opposite the other way. It's not that difficult once you recognize that we are in a range to actually find entries. If you're willing to trade the box, you know, most people get terrified of that. I don't. As long as you follow the rules, everything should be pretty cool. So, mate, that's it. It's either flat city and do nothing, or it's look for those box ranges and trade them off the top or the bottom with higher lows or lower highs. That's pretty much where I'm at.
Great, mate. Okay, I think that's a fair synopsis. I think I'll be sitting and waiting for tomorrow's announcement. So you know, tomorrow's show is going to be probably more of the same to a degree, and going to wait for Mario Draghi at 1:30 UK time.
Yeah, we can set up that breakout trade though. That's that could be interesting for people who haven't seen it before.
Yeah, let's check that then. We'll check out the breakout trade tomorrow and see if we can get some orders in the market, and Jeff will show you and talk you through how to effectively trade the news and the announcement that Draghi's about to make, rather than trading after the event. So yeah, let's discuss that tomorrow. Otherwise, have a great rest of the day, mate. Have a great rest of the day for you guys as well. Both Jeff and I are suspicious of this market. We both suspect that price action will be fairly flat. So if you are trading, make sure that you are aware of that, and make sure that you are using strategies which are able to handle choppy movements, fairly flat movements. Don't expect huge swings in the market today. Expect to be getting in and out. So you're going to need some experience if you are scalping, which is probably the only way you're going to make any money today. But my personal suggestion would be, if it's not a market that you are used to trading, then expect most of them to have very little movement, which means, you know, maybe avoid trading today. It's not going to be the best environment. So
I don't believe so. No.
Yeah. So I mean, we're both of the same thinking. It's unlikely. things can change, of course they can, but it's unlikely to be the best environment to trade if for the things that we foresee at this stage. So be very careful.
I think
out
just
there,
to
guys.
add to that, I think if the market does look like breaking these resistance and support areas, just be very cautious because they're likely to be false breaks.
That's
no
right.
matter where, you know.
That's
They're very
right.
likely to be false.
And forewarned is forearmed on that, so maybe we can trade that too. But I think but
Yep.
it's gonna be wine o'clock until tomorrow for you and I think, Jeff.
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Now you're talking.
All right. Well, we'll be back same trade time, same trade channel tomorrow. Everybody else have a great afternoon and a great evening, and I will see you tomorrow as well, buddy, and have a good one. 5 to 8.
5 to 8. Don't be late. That's the date.
Grand. All right, buddy. See you tomorrow.
Hooroo.